There is a tendency for the church to appoint its leaders on criteria like talent and charisma. As part of a foundation for godly leadership, talent and charisma are way too shallow to support any weight. They do, however, successfully support the growth of personal pride and conceit, which are tendencies so dangerous that they threaten to undermine the whole structure of the local church. So, should leadership be restricted to the talentless and the faceless? No, but Paul says it should be restricted to those who have had time to learn how their gifts and personalities rightly glorify only God. The overseer must not be a recent convert, or he may become conceited and fall under the same judgment as the devil. 1 Timothy chapter 3 verse 6. What judgment are we talking about? Let's read Isaiah 14:12 to 17. Now this is part of a taunt song against the king of Babylon. It also refers to him in verse 12 as the morning star, and the Latin Bible, the Vulgate, that is rendered as Lucifer, which became another name for Satan. And verses 13 and 14 proceed to give a summary of exactly the kind of demonic agenda that drives much of the suffering and destruction that can be found almost everywhere you find a human population. I will ascend. I will raise my throne, sit enthroned, make myself like the Most High. It's all about self-promotion, self-glorification, about grabbing a status for myself that doesn't belong to me by right. If we go on and read Luke chapter 4, verses 3 to 13, it's clear that Jesus is being tempted to adopt this agenda as his own, to prove himself and promote himself, and make a quick grab for ultimate power and authority without thinking too much about how he's laying hands on it or what he'll be able to do with it once he's got it. Pause the video for a moment. What will make a new convert particularly vulnerable to such temptations? Perhaps the answer isn't immediately obvious, because the business of converting to Christ can look very different in these days. But back in the early days of the church, they would have absolutely expected that a new convert would just have been like Jesus baptized, and would have received like him the Holy Spirit. And with that, a whole lot of new possibilities opened up before them. There is power in their life that was not there before. Like a learner driver with their first car, they need a little time to learn how that power should be properly applied. Let's read Luke chapter 10, verses 1 to 24. Now these are not exactly new, but relatively recent converts. And they're not overseers, leaders, they are being overseen by Jesus, who is there to remind them what really is to be celebrated, verse 20, and to pray in their hearing, I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and learned and revealed them to little children, thus ensuring that their egos don't outgrow their faith. But just think if they were the ones in charge. What a dangerously intoxicating experience to have demons submitting to you and to know that whoever rejects you rejects him. A favourite saying in some circles of the church is that the man with a theology is at the mercy of the man with an experience. I don't think it's a coincidence that those circles of the church are the ones that are often beset with problems caused by leaders who see their experiences as validation for their ministry. The leaders we need are not without experience of his power in their lives, but the ones who know that what he does through me says everything about him and nothing about me. Lastly, let's look again at Luke chapter 9 and verses 37 to 55. All leadership will meet with resistance of some form or another. How do we meet it? How do we see it? Jesus' leaders will see straight away that this is not an issue about them, and it must not be met in their own strength. Note the context here. These future leaders of the church have just failed to drive out a demon, verse 40. But that doesn't stop them comparing themselves with each other, verse 46, or attempting to block the ministry of others, verse 49, or wanting to take the nuclear option, verse 54, in reacting to the failures of others. Christian leadership loses its bearings when it allows itself to be shaped by comparisons with others, and when it sees the people around as either its own personal supporters or its own personal opponents. If you have been, thank you for joining in.